This episode of Pucks Across Borders is brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With over 40 years experience, First Round Collectibles offers the widest variety of quality Beckett-graded sports cards anywhere. Representing 10 major sports, First Round has all your favorite players from all your favorite teams at great prices. We are proud of our knowledgeable staff and top-rated customer service, and our reviews vouch for our integrity. Visit us today at firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah, oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same.
Hey, welcome to Pucks Across Borders. A little name change on a Monday. Up to my right. Oh, you switched spots on me, Andre. You read his work on the NFL, on Gridiron Heroics, on Winners and Whiners, talks the NBA, talks the NFL, on Total Apex Sports. Andre, how you feeling on a Monday, bro?
For a Monday, I'm doing pretty well. I'm glad to be back. Ready to get going.
Yes, sir. And below me, which just feels like a weird thing to say, but nevertheless, he is below me currently. John, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. How are you feeling on a Monday?
Doing pretty good. Football world is chaotic, so I'm hoping the hockey world will be a little less chaotic than it was this weekend.
Well, in any other major sport, it might feel less chaotic, but for the NFL, and HL rather, quite a happening weekend / Monday. Some negative stuff to get to. We'll just start with the positive, at least for Leaf fans. William Nylander is officially extended with the Toronto Maple Leafs. $11.5 million across 8 years. The extension is set to start next week. You can go to capfriendly.com and they have all the layout of the per year and the bonuses and how the money all lines up. As a Leaf fan, I can tell you, but also as like a hockey observer, there's lots of people who are saying that that's like way too much money. You can pay him for $10 million, nothing more, trying to do all the comparables. You know, Panarin's making 11.2, I believe. Pasternak is around that same range. The reality is that the contract that you had William Nylander at before, which was around 6.7 million, at the time of that deal, he did not earn that contract yet. That was based on what he was projecting to be. This, you always get paid. I mean, you guys know this from covering, NFL, the NBA, paying attention to baseball and all this stuff. You're always going to get paid more than your comparables if you're next, right? Who's ever next gets typically paid the most if they're in that range. To me, he earned this deal. He decided to not sign during the offseason. He had a career year last year. He was trending that way 2 seasons ago. He's on a career pace right now. I think he's on a current pace of around 120 points ish, which will he get there? Probably not. But he's having an absolute rock star season. He bet on himself and it paid off. From the Maple Leafs perspective, I think you have to. Like, in the cap world, it's difficult. I think we talked about this last week. What's going to make this contract difficult with the cap going up this summer and then again next summer? What's going to make this contract difficult is next year, right? Because you have Tavares still for 11 million. It's going to be really tight. But Tavares' contract is up at the end of next season. You have starting next year, you then have Matthews for the next 4 years starting next year. You have Nylander for 8 years starting next year. Marner is up for an extension on July 1st, and so is Tavares. So it's going to be tight next season for sure. But if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, what are you going to do? What can you trade William Nylander for that is substantially less money, has term, and will be worth it? Like, Andre, as a Rangers fan, who would you want to sign Panarin for? Or, sorry, trade Panarin for? Who has term, gets paid less? Like, would 2-round draft picks plus a player like do it for you? I mean,
I'm drawing blanks. I wouldn't trade Panarin for the world.
right.
So you really can't. Some players are too valuable
100%.
to have that type of. Everyone has a price, but some it's just not even worth thinking about because it's not realistic.
And the NHL isn't the NBA where we're trading Rudy Gobert for 7 first-round picks. Like, that's just kind of stuff's not happening in like this league. So I love the deal. I think it's awesome that he's staying here. Now the troubling part of it is paying these top 4 or 5 guys for all this much money has won us 1 playoff round. So we'll see what happens. But if you want to be a really good team during the regular season every single year, then you do this. And we'll see what decisions they make moving forward to hopefully win more than just 1 playoff round. Wouldn't that be something for Toronto Maple Leaf fans? So huge news in the Toronto world, which I'm sure in the year or two to come will cause ripple effects across the NHL. Andre, what was your takeaway from the weekend, my friend?
There are 4 teams that entered the weekend with a winning streak of at least 5 games, and there are 4 teams that still have a winning streak over 5 games now. Talking about the Florida Panthers, they just beat the Avalanche on Saturday, and they're in St. Louis tomorrow. The Edmonton Oilers are matching them with a 7-game winning streak. They beat the Senators on Saturday, and they're in Chicago on Tuesday. Then you got the Kraken. They've won 6 in a row. They didn't play over the weekend, but they're in Buffalo tomorrow. And then the Winnipeg Jets beat the Yotes yesterday, and they're home against Columbus on Tuesday. So 4 teams that are red hot. The Kraken and Oilers, this is especially important as they're trying to climb the standings and return to the postseason. Panthers trying to catch the Bruins in the Atlantic and doing a really good job. They're only 2 points back now. And the Jets trying to wrap up the Central, trying to prove that they're legit. They have the most points in the league. So it's 4 teams doing great. 4 teams with 4 teams with a winnable game ahead of them tomorrow. We could be looking at 4 teams with a winning streak for at least 7 games when tomorrow night's all said and done. But, it is hard to win that many in a row. So it's going to be interesting to see if one falters against a weak team tomorrow and who it'll be.
Yeah, and that specifically that Florida win on Saturday, that was impressive, man.
Yeah.
Like, the Panthers went up 3-0 in that game against Colorado and let that game get away from them. And any other team or most teams rather, let that like get to you and you kind of crumble for the rest of the game. But that team's tough, man. They're going to be a problem for everybody down the stretch. All right, John, Negative Nancy. What was your takeaway from the weekend, man? Some tough news on the injury front.
Yeah, unfortunately not. It wasn't a good weekend in hockey for every star, and I think NHL as a whole lost one notable player, and that's Connor Bedard. And I heard this weekend he's going to be out after he played my Devils, suffered a gruesome injury with a fractured jaw. He's going to be out, I believe, 4 to 6 weeks was the last I heard on it, which likely means the NHL world as a whole is going to get robbed of him making an appearance in the All-Star game. NHL won't get to show their shiny new toy out in their most nationally recognized weekend in the regular season too. So outside the Winter Classic, maybe. So definitely a brutal loss there. And I thought it was like the one bright spot Chicago had going this year. So must be dark days in the Windy City right now. But that wasn't the only injury from that very game. On the other side of the ice, Jack Hughes got hurt for my Devils. He's dealing with a wrist injury. Basically, our best player missed Saturday night against Vancouver. I don't know how long he's going to be out yet, but it's clear that's going to be a big loss. Last time Jack missed some time, the Devils went on a bit of a slump. So it's pretty clear the Devils need him and he sure to be together on the ice at bare minimum. So hopefully it doesn't sound like it's that serious, but hopefully he gets back on the ice sooner rather than later.
What did you guys think about that hit on Bedard? There's a lot of people saying it was dirty. What do you think, Andre?
I didn't think it was dirty. His head wasn't up.
I agree.
Entering the zone, head down. I know he kind of lost the puck, but it was Brendan Smith, right? Didn't even really launch into him or take strides into him. It was kind of 1-2, and Bedard's momentum did most of the damage, I think. So it's not dirty. It's unfortunate. I understand people are upset. One of my best friends is a Blackhawks fan, and he was devastated. But
Sure.
I don't think it was a dirty hit. It's just part of learning, you know. A broken jaw isn't the way you want to learn, but
no,
it happens sometimes.
It's the way you gotta learn sometimes. Unfortunately, John, what about you? Dirty? Yes, no.
I'm probably the last guy that's going to say it's a dirty hit, considering it takes a lot for me to say a hit is dirty in hockey already to do it against my own team. It's going to be hard to get a yes out of me for that one. I just think circumstances kind of don't play in the Devils' favor here, or Brendan Smith's favor more specifically, because he's like a no-name player, even on our own team. And we're talking about the biggest young star in hockey on the receiving end of that hit. So I think the circumstances of it are going to make it into a bigger deal than it is. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, let's be honest, with the NHL, like those hits used to be commonplace.
Oh, yeah.
Like those hits used to happen all the time. I mean, your team, you know, Mr. Scott Stevens with the chicken wing out, like that was a legit, like dirty play. But at the time, it was legal, which is crazy to even say that. Sure. But that was a legal hit. But I mean, you know, the open ice hits against Lindros and Paul Kariya, like this was pretty commonplace. And I think for a guy like Connor Bedard to have the rarity of the open ice hit, which doesn't really happen that much anymore. I mean, I remember growing up playing hockey. They always taught you that. Keep your head up going down the middle of the ice. Keep your head up. Keep your head up. And it's just not as much of part of the game as it used to be. But you still got to keep your head up. And I mean, I think you touched on it too, man. Like the All-Star game has lost its kind of like cachet However, it felt different this year. It did feel like there was more of a hype for it than in uh, uh, past years. I believe you were actually saying that, John, recently, whether it was on the pod or in um, off-air conversations. So, and he was the youngest guy to do it, right? So, it's unfortunate for sure. So we didn't talk about this in the pre-show, but I'll just throw it out here. Anybody have any bad beats on the weekend or what?
I mean, I bet the under in Jets Yotes yesterday,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, that'll
well, the
get you.
Jets decided to score 6 goals for the first time in God knows how long. So that was tough.
I'll add a little insult to injury with my takeaway here. My takeaway actually cost me an over because, like, on Friday I picked the Devils Blackhawks game to go over, trying to trying to get a little redemption there for that pick, but I think because of the Bedard and Hughes injuries, kind of severely hurt the chances of an over hitting there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was texting you boys throughout the weekend. I had a pretty financially positive weekend.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
Friday night, I didn't even text you guys. Saturday, I had parlay, same game parlay with the Philly Flames game that ended up cashing. Your Rangers, though, Andre. So Friday night, I had 2 bets that hit. Saturday, the same game parlay from the Flames Flyers game, which started at like 1 in the afternoon. That hit. I had a substantially nice payout on the line with the Rangers money line, Leafs puck line, and Oilers puck line against Ottawa. And the Rangers are down 3-0 against Montreal. Come back, tie it to lose in a shootout. And that was tough. That was a tough loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That game cost me a parlay too, so don't feel bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it stings more or less. Like when they're losing 3-0, you kind of just write it off, right? It's like, okay. But then it's 3-3, and you're like, the Rangers, my heroes, they're back, baby. And it still stings.
Yeah. I kind of wrote them off after the 3-0. That's always 3-2, second intermission. And I was like, are they going to give me hope again? Then they tied it. And I was like, all right, it's the Canadians. You got to win that one in overtime, right? Like more talent, better goalie, all that jazz. But nope, just brutal.
100%. I just saw this now, but our boys at Total Apex Sports commenting Bruins scored 7 on Saturday against Lightning. That was like, that's another thing to take away. Like this Lightning team, man, who are these guys? Like I've been on the record saying I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I mean, theoretically they shouldn't, but this has to be one of the most confusing good teams that we've had in a while. No,
I'm not even sure if we can call them a good team anymore.
right?
I'm so on the fence about them.
Which is insane with all the talent they have. Sorry, John, what were you going to add?
no, look, I think I'm pretty much right there with you guys at this point. It's like, what are we seeing right now?
And the Bruins are a good team, no doubt, but 7-3, that's tough. But then the Leafs lost like 9-3 to Boston. So what are we even talking about?
I think I'm kind of just used to things like this happening to Tampa once in a while, or some of these teams for that matter. I don't know if it happens consistently enough for me to be that alarmed yet. I don't know. They're still right in the mix, but they got to get it together for sure.
Well, let's talk about the games tonight, and let's talk about 2 teams who are in the mix, but for the President's Trophy and not scrounging their way into the playoff picture. And I am so excited for this game, Andre. Like, as a Rangers fan, I don't know how pumped you are considering Vancouver's one of the best teams in the league, but as a hockey fan, you might like to watch both these two teams. This is going to be, in my opinion, I know Boston, Colorado, that's going to be a really good game too. But I feel like the Canucks and the Rangers, in my opinion, are two of the teams that we don't have too many questions about. Like, I feel like we know both these teams pretty well. Where Colorado, there are some weird questions still about that team. But let's get right into it. Andre, Vancouver Rangers, Rangers minus 148 favorites, which, no disrespect, that seems pretty wild to me, even at home. I definitely think that they should be favored. Minus 148 just seems a little bit rich. Vancouver plus 124. The puck line on the Rangers side, minus 1.5, is plus 160. Vancouver Canucks puck line plus 1.5 is minus 192. The over is 6.5 at minus 108. And the under is minus 112. Andre, what do we think about this game tonight, man?
Just real quick before I get into this, I think there's 4 games on the schedule today, and I think 3.5 of them are really good. Like, I think it's a great.
Which one's the half?
What's the
Wild Minnesota Wild injury report? That's the half.
Gotcha.
It's the one half I'm taking out.
Gotcha.
No, it's a really good schedule today. Really looking forward. I think all of these games are going to be very interesting. Now for this game, as a Rangers fan, this team irritates me slightly because they tend to start slow against the teams that they should beat the brakes off of. Vancouver is not one of those teams, and I sort of feel more comfortable with them at home against a team like this than I would if they were, I'll say in Minnesota, because I was just talking about their injuries. I like the Rangers money line here. I like the Rangers 60-minute line here. They just lost. They don't lose back-to-back games very often. They're back on home ice, and they've been good everywhere, but they've been better at home in almost every way. Definitely scoring-wise, and if you're going to pick out a flaw for the Rangers, it's 5-on-5 scoring. So I like the Rangers to win here. When I do bet on this game, I'm going to bet the money line with some other stuff. I like the over because, these power plays, insane. Crazy power plays. Vancouver's penalty kill is going to get them in trouble, unless that's Demko's standing on his head tonight in the Garden. But really good game. I think 4-3 Rangers win.
John, what do you see here, brother?
This might be in contention for one of the most anticipated games of the year. Honestly, like you said before, we don't really seem to have a lot of questions about these two teams, at least the three of us anyway. And I think this is a good test for Vancouver. The line, as usual, is a little disrespectful towards them. I think this is a good test for Vancouver, mainly because they're arguably traveling to the mecca of hockey in America at Madison Square Garden tonight. And I think tonight Vancouver shows the U.S. side of the hockey world what they're made of. I think this is going to be a big stage for them to show what they got. Vancouver, Total Apex in the comments here pointed out both teams are very good at scoring goals, so I understand the overpick. But with Vancouver leading the league in goals per game, or I think so anyway. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I think the one concern on the Vancouver end is that I think the penalty kill is a little bit disadvantage for them because they're going up against the best power play in the NHL, and their penalty kill is not awful, but it's not great either. These are two of the top 6 teams in goals allowed per game, though, so I'm a little hesitant to jump on the over. But I think, given the fact that Vancouver can avoid having to kill too many penalties tonight, I think their offense is a bit more upside. There's a few more positive players in their lineup, and I think their goaltending's slightly better. So I think, given the stage Vancouver's on tonight, I still feel like this is a little disrespectful towards them. I like Vancouver plus money since they've already been in New York for a few days too, because they just played the Devils on Saturday. I'm leaning Vancouver money line here. Maybe it's just because I want that to happen, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I think the over is probably the most reliable bet when we're talking about the result. I think either like this game based on a winner could go either way. I'm leaning Vancouver here as well. I think, first of all, I think that this team is a serious contender, but based on their last few years, a lot of people are still waiting for this team to show their true colors. Like, there's a lot of people who are still talking about, are they frauds? Are they going to slip down? Are they? And I think they're for real, but they still have work to do when it comes to proving themselves. I think plus 124 makes sense. Minus 148, that's what I don't quite understand. And I want to see Vancouver continue to show the hockey world that they're for real. I think with the like comparing scoring, yeah, the Canucks can score, but we're talking about the Rangers here. Like, those guys have a lot of really like good goal scorers as well. The concerning part from a side is what Total Apex pointed out, John pointed out, Andre pointed this out as well. Both of these power plays are phenomenal, and the penalty killing for the Canucks is the one thing, John, you're absolutely right, that causes me concern. However, that being said, I'm still looking for Vancouver. I mean, like, Andre, you watched the Rangers basically every game. I feel like the Canucks on the defensive side of things is a bit more reliable, and I think I'm going to go that way when I'm picking the winner for the game. A few things I noticed here, and this is another one that hints towards the over for me. So JT Miller, 7 points last 5 games. Quinn Hughes, 7 points last 5 games. Pedersen, 7 points last 5 games. Panarin, 9 points last 5 games. Trocheck, 9 points last 5 games. Like, their stars are on heaters right now on both teams. And I think that continues tonight. Vancouver 3-2 in their last 5. 19 goals in those 3 wins. And 2 goals combined in those 2 losses, which concerns me. If the Canucks lose this game, it's been trending that when they lose, they're not scoring a lot. So I am a little bit nervous that if they lose this game, they won't be scoring too many goals. They have allowed 4 goals in 4 of the last 6 games. And that also helps me lean towards the over as well. All right, moving on.
Mark, can I
Yeah.
just JT Miller, former Ranger. Former Rangers love scoring against the New York. So I would feel very confident in JT Miller scoring a goal tonight.
He did the last time they played, no? I'm pretty sure.
Probably did. Seems like a common thing.
I love that. Probably makes sense.
Yeah, he did. Power play goal.
Oh, a power play goal. There you go. See?
Look at you.
So this one is a sneaky, like, good game. I feel like the Penguins have been playing some pretty compelling games lately. You have Pittsburgh in Philadelphia. Pittsburgh is minus 125 on the road. Flyers plus 105. Minus 1.5 for the Penguins is plus 195, while plus 1.5, sorry, for Philadelphia is minus 238. Over is 6, minus 118. The under is minus 102. Side note, Philadelphia, great win against Calgary on Saturday night. We got to talk about the Calgary Flames on another day, but we thought they were looking good and they've been hitting a bit of a slide here, but that's for another day. John, start us off. What do you see in this game, brother?
This is a good slate tonight because I always thought this was a low-key great rivalry, one of the better ones in the NHL. So it's always interesting when these two get together. And both these teams really are kind of in the same place right now in terms of like playoff contention. So I'm going to be interested to see how this one turns out. Both of them could use a win not only for bragging rights, but to improve their playoff position. But going into this game, I want to pick a winner in a rivalry game. But honestly, what I really like the most here is the under, mainly because neither of these two teams score a lot. Pittsburgh averages just barely over 3 goals a game. The Flyers are 2.9. Don't expect a power play goal in this game because both of their power play percentages are under 15%. And both of their penalty kills are over 83. Philadelphia in particular is pretty good there. And in terms of goals allowed, they're both top 8 in the league in goals allowed. So I think both of these two teams are grind out defensive teams. I wouldn't expect a lot of scoring. I saw the totals at 6 in most sports books. I'm personally comfortable with it. So I think my biggest recommendation from this game would be under.
What about you, Andre? What do you see here?
Just very intrigued by this matchup. When these teams met back to back in December, Flyers won both. First one in a shootout, finished over the total. Second one was only 2-1 in overtime. It was a home and home. Obviously, they both play in Pennsylvania, so even though it's across the state, not that big a deal. And when I look at how these teams match up, I just feel like the Flyers are physical enough, gritty enough, grabby enough where they can slow down the Penguins. So in theory, you would think that, they should win, right? But I like the way the Penguins are playing hockey right now. I know they just lost to the Sabres, but that's the Sabres. I don't
They
put
only
much
beat
stock
good
in what
teams, man. Yeah.
I don't put much stock in what they do. So the Flyers, before beating Calgary, had a 4-game losing streak. They lost 6 of 7. I think a lot of people expect them to come back down to earth a little bit, and it might be happening right now. I still think this team has a lot of fight left in them, but I think the Penguins are going to finally beat them tonight. So I think the Penguins might win by multiple goals, but at minus 125, I don't think there's any reason why I have to deviate from the Penguins money line. I think that's good enough odds. And I'm leaning towards the under here. I like the under 6 a little bit more.
Yeah, I want to take Philly plus 105 very badly. I think you mentioned Andre lost 6 out of their previous 7 beat before losing or before winning, sorry, on Saturday. Before that 1-6 stretch, they were 7-1. So while people are kind of waiting for them to regress, I'm kind of waiting to see if they get back to it. We've all talked about Torts and like the job he's been doing there. And I do believe in this Philadelphia team. The problem is, and I was actually listening to the Flyers broadcast on Saturday. Shout out Sirius XM. Amazing. Get to listen to all these games. And one thing they were talking about, which is why I'm taking Pittsburgh, is this team is having a hard time scoring right now. You have Konechny has scored 5 goals in his last 5 games, 3 helpers, 8 points in his last 5 games. That's all the reliable scoring that they're getting. Tippett hasn't had a point in his last 5 games, which a lot of times makes me want to dabble in the goal scoring prop because, I mean, Tippett scores goals and he hasn't. Eventually he will. I just think Pittsburgh's more reliable right now, putting the puck in the net. I don't like the -1.5. I do understand it could be -1.5. That could absolutely happen. I don't think the Flyers roll over here, though. I think that it's a good, hard-fought, close game. I like the Penguins money line, and I think it's a clean sweep on the under. John, you picked the under too as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this game. I also think that the NHL, it was like, for all of our fans who don't like college football, here is a buffet of 4 wonderful games for you. So you don't have to just see Twitter talking about college football the whole night, and we can have 4 really good games in the NHL. One thing I will add was talking about Pittsburgh. Excuse me. Crosby, 3 goals, 3 assists in his last 5 games. 15 of his 22 goals on the road. So, kind of looking at that anytime score prop. And Gensel, 2 goals and 3 assists in his last 5. Moving on to Minnesota, Dallas. In Minnesota, man, when Minnesota was coming around, everyone's in the hospital for these guys right now. It's really tough to see. Plus 114, Minnesota home dogs. Dallas -135. The over is 6 at -125. The under is plus 105, which I thought was super interesting. -1.5 for Dallas is plus 185, while plus 1.5 for Minnesota is minus 225. I think that it is first glance a no-brainer that Dallas wins this hockey game. We've talked about the injuries for Minnesota with Kaprizov and Zuccarello and others. That being said, I'm staying away from from a winner or loser for that matter in this game. I don't trust Dallas right now, boys. I don't know what you guys are thinking. This is the beginning of a home and home. Stars 3-game losing streak, all by 1 goal, by the way, just to kind of throw that out there. If you're considering them -1.5, that 1 goal trend kind of concerns me. They've allowed 4 or more in the last 4 of 5. Understood that the Wild don't have some key players right now. But Dallas, their play has been concerning lately. They're losing these close games. Wild 1-4 in their last 5, but the defense still playing pretty good. Goaltending's been better. I know that the goals against is 20th in the league. But I don't trust Dallas enough to pick them to win this game. On the Dallas prop side, though, Robertson, 2 goals, 5 assists in his last 5. Seguin, 4 goals, 2 assists in his last 5. And on the Minnesota side, Boldy is pretty much the only offense they have right now. 3 goals and 1 assist in his last 5. John, we'll go over to you, man. What do you see in this game?
I have a lot of the same sentiments as you on this game. I have a rocky relationship with Dallas right now. I don't trust them either, mainly because they've made me look bad a couple of times recently. I mean, I'm still not over that loss they had against Montreal that started this losing streak, and they've lost their last 3 games, all of them by 1 goal, I might add. But Dallas does have a bit of a routine going on. Okay, I know this is going to sound weird, but I swear this is their 7th straight game where they're playing with like a day of rest in between. So they're playing every 2 days consistently for like 2 weeks straight now.
Yeah.
That's very random, but it's just something I couldn't happen but help but notice looking at Dallas here. Because I swear I feel like they've lost quite a few games that were notable of late, and I could see why, because the Canadiens and Avalanche game really stick with me a little bit here, which is why I don't really trust Dallas 100% in this game. But I think the Minnesota injuries make it hard to back them as well. Minnesota's penalty kill does concern me. They're under 73% there, combined with the fact that Dallas is a top 5 team in goals per game. I don't know if I want to take the Dallas money line. It seemed like a little too much juice. They do seem to. I might go with the under, actually. Minnesota's pretty beat up. Dallas been in a lot of 1-goal games. I could certainly see it happening here. And I think it's a bit safer than backing Dallas right now, personally. And Minnesota's so beat up. I just don't really trust either side enough right now to bet them. So I think if you want a safer play, under slightly where I'd lean. But if I have to be honest, this is probably the least confident game I have of the 4 period. So I think this is just if I had to pick something in the game, that's what I would pick.
What do you see here, Andre?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't trust Dallas right now. At the same time, I don't trust Minnesota at all. And I don't trust Minnesota more than I don't trust Dallas. So
right. Yeah.
I think I'm going to take Dallas minus 1.5 here. I'm going to ignore the fact that the Wild just beat Columbus 4-3 on Saturday because it's the Blue Jackets. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to ignore their back-to-back losses heading into the New Year's against Winnipeg because the Jets are stifling every offense right now. So I'm going to take stock in the 2 games between then to open up 2024. At home against the Calgary Flames, they only scored 1 goal. At home against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who we've talked about their defense and goaltending issues a lot this year, they scored 1 goal, lost 4-1. They're not scoring. It's because of the injuries. It sucks. But Dallas is a team that's better on the road all season. They already went to Minnesota and won 8-3. They just lost 3 winnable games at home, and I think getting away from that arena is going to give them some fresh air. I'd like the Stars to win this game by multiple goals. I like the Stars minus 1.5 here.
Interesting. I can't argue with it at all. There's just something about the way Dallas has been playing that has been concerning as of late.
They're very shaky.
Yeah.
And I wish I had that confidence to take the puck line, but they're just so shaky lately.
Yeah, and the under, like, it It kind of concerns me too. Like, even though you're absolutely right, like Minnesota is super banged up right now. There's just, I don't know. There's something suspicious about this game. There's something in the air. I can't quite put a finger on it. All right. Last game of the evening. If you were to say that this is the game of the night, I can't, disagree with you. I do disagree with you, but I can't give you
It's a good
like
runner up.
valuable reasons why I disagree with you. The Colorado Avalanche are home minus 125 now. The odds up here say minus 130. They're now minus 125. Boston Bruins plus 105 on the road. Plus 1.5 for Boston's puck line is minus 225, while Colorado's puck line minus 1.5 is plus 185. The over is 6 at minus 130. The under is plus 110 in this game. Andre, we'll start with you, man. What do you see here? And specifically, I know Colorado's a really good team, but can you give me some good reasons to not take Boston plus money here?
I have something that'll interest you.
All right.
Over at Total Apex Sports, a certain someone wrote an article on this game and said that the Bruins were actually going to win by multiple goals. They like
All
Bruins minus 1.5 here. I think it was plus 2 something. So there's someone out there that agrees with you. That being said, I'm not sure if I'm that person. They got embarrassed on Saturday. Ended a 4-game winning streak. Ended a nice winning streak at
Colorado, you
home.
mean?
I mean Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they lost 8-4 at home on Saturday. Ended a 7-game home winning streak. Ended a 4-game winning streak overall. And it's pretty embarrassing to do on your home ice. I know the Panthers are good; they're playing well, whatever. But to fall behind 3, tie it up, and then to give up 5 of the last 6 goals scored in the game.
Yeah.
4 straight in the third period to close it, and only 1 was an empty net. It's really rough. I know there's plenty of goaltending and defensive concerns with the Avalanche 5-on-5, but I think they're better at home. They've been better at home all season. I think they can hold it together, bounce back in a big game, and step up. I know the Bruins are really good. The Bruins are phenomenal. But flying out to Denver, it's a tough place to play. First game of a 4-game road trip. It'll be interesting to see how they come out. I'm not sure if I really trust it. They had been playing better of late, but let's not forget their mid-December swoon, if you will, that 4-game losing streak. This team can be shut down offensively. They're riding really high right now, and I think it's a mirage, if you will. Or not a mirage, I'll say the bubble's due to burst at some point. I think it's going to happen during this trip. They're going to have a few off games, and I think it's going to start tonight. I really like Colorado at home here. After that, they gave up 8 goals at home. Like,
embarrassing.
Yeah, and they were already calling each other out, and there's already like internal, we need to be better, blah, blah, blah. I think Colorado's going to bring it tonight. This is a statement game for them.
Well, and I was watching that game, and when Florida was winning both in the first period and the third period, they were dominating. And there was that little middle area where Colorado came alive. But when Florida was winning, it was all Florida. Like, it wasn't even close. And there was just something about it that was super, super fascinating to watch. John, what do you see here, bro?
I think I kind of just changed my pick I was ready to go into this with something else in mind, but there's one of Andre's points made me like a certain pick better. So I think originally my favorite play in this was to pick Boston to win outright with the money line, but I think there's something I like better than that now. And the point Andre made was about Colorado getting embarrassed on Saturday with the 8 goals given up by Florida. It made me look at this line, one line in this game a little bit closer, and that's the total. The total sitting at 6, which I find very interesting considering Colorado is number 2 in the league in goals per game. Boston's not much farther behind. I believe they're in the top 10. Yeah, they're 3.37. These two teams average over 7 games goals combined. Colorado's goaltending is a little bit shaky right now, but I definitely agree with Andre in that they're going to come out much better tonight. I do not see them giving up nearly that many again. And Boston already has elite goaltending with their dynamic duo with Swayman and Amarka. Yeah. So
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say is the more I look at this game, the more I'm talking myself into an under. I like that under 6 to hit. Given that Colorado will want to have a bounce back game from the 8 they gave up, and Boston's already a good goaltending team as is. So I think this is going to be a game where goals are going to come at a premium. And if not for Vancouver Rangers, we would be talking about this game a lot more. But I think I'm also leaning Boston to win, but now I think my favorite play in this game is the under.
Yeah, that's super interesting, John. I knew it was inevitable that you and I would disagree.
It always happens at least once.
We've been seeing things eye to eye too much lately. And by lately, I mean for the last hour. And so I wouldn't go as strong. Our boys, like you said, Andre at Total Apex talking about -1.5. I like the odds for that, and I would not be surprised if it happened that way. I do think Boston wins. I think this is a tough. So this is where I haven't disagreed with you yet, John, but don't worry, it's coming. I think it's a tough spot. I know it's at home, but I think Colorado's playing Boston at the wrong time right now. Boston's 5-1 in their last 6. In 5 of those games, they have scored 7, 5, 4, 5, and 5. This offense is clicking at a really, really good rate right now. Not that Colorado can't win this game because of that, but they're letting goals in their last 6. They've allowed 8, 4, 4. 2 games where they allowed 1 in each game. But then before that, they allowed 5 in a game. Their goaltending's not been great this year. They're 18th in goals allowed this season, and I really like the over. That's where it is, John. That is where I think you are dead wrong, which didn't work out well for me last week, where I think you swept the entire night and I was wrong and everything. So we'll see what happens. But I think both of these teams are scoring a lot of goals right now. I think it's a really bad time for Colorado to play Boston. I understand the -1.5 over there in the comment section, but I will absolutely pick Boston money line at plus money 100%. Pasternak, 4 goals in his last 5 games. Frederick, who? I don't know. Frederick, 5 goals in his last 5 games. That's all I got to say for you. But yeah, I like Boston on the money line, and I like the over. Is there anything else to add from that game? Anything that I'm missing there, boys?
It's a great nightcap.
Excellent nightcap. 100%.
Quality over quantity today.
I wish it was a little bit later. I know that Colorado, like the time zone, 9 p.m. But with this football game, I want to catch a bit of that football game, and I would love a 10 p.m. game in hockey world. But that's all right. Okay, moving on to our best bets for the night. John, we'll start with you, man, and we'll see if we're on the same page. Something tells me we won't be, but that's okay. What is your best bet for tonight?
I'm going to go back to a rivalry game between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I think those meetups are always tough. They're always grinding, and especially when these two teams are in very similar positions and play very similarly. I see this game going under 6. Neither of these teams scored that many goals. Both power plays have a bad matchup tonight with the penalty kills on the other side. I just don't see a ton of goals in this game. I'll be surprised if the game goes over 6. Give me the under there.
What about you, Andre?
Wait, I just had a thought in my head. I was gonna say, what if my lock of the day was over 6 in that one? We just have to be competing right there. In the
Ooh.
Have
parlay.
any of us ever gone head to head with our
No.
bets?
I mean, why not? It
That's
doesn't
what I
have
was
to
just
be a
thinking about.
parlay.
I also like the under in that game though, so that wouldn't even make sense.
Andre with the tease.
I think I'm gonna go with the Stars -1.5. I very strongly feel that the Minnesota Wild have a scoring problem right now through no fault of their own, just bad breaks. I think the Stars desperately need to finish off one of these games after losing 3 in a row. They already went to Minnesota once and won by 5 goals. I think they're going to put a stamp on this one, get back in the win column. They've been a better team on the road all season. So give me the Stars against the shorthanded Wild -1.5.
So I apologize to Andre. You know that if I want to hurt anybody or disagree with anybody, it's usually John. But I feel really good about Vancouver tonight, man. I really do. I just think that they've been playing more consistently. I think their defense is tighter, and I'm picking Vancouver. The good news for you is if you make your little Rangers bets and make this parlay, and if the Rangers lose, it's an emotional hedge, It's my heart's broken. I lost a little money over here, but I made a little money over here, and you just kind of I was gonna say salts the wound, but it actually does the exact opposite of that. So whatever the opposite of salting the wound is. So really quickly, Andre, while you're putting together that little parlay for us there, if you don't mind, let me go to John and just a little fun. As everybody knows, it is the college championship in football tonight. We have Washington versus Michigan, plus 170 for Washington, minus 205 for Michigan. The spread is plus 5 for Washington and minus 5 for Michigan, both at minus 110. Now, the reason why I'm asking you about this has nothing to do with our show. It's more for my own personal gambling questions. I don't really follow college football. I watch the playoffs. I'll watch the odd game, or if I'm doing nothing on a Saturday in September and hockey hasn't started yet, I'll sprinkle some dollars on a game. I like picking underdogs in these spots because I don't know anything. So I like cheering for the underdog and maybe a little money on the side. John, tell me who you're picking in this game and why. And just to let you guys both know, you can literally say things that are 100% not true, and I will buy it hook, line, and sinker because I have no idea. So, John, go ahead, man. Who do you like in this game and why?
Well, Mark, in terms of underdogs, I think most of America is going to be rooting for them tonight because Michigan is kind of the villains of college football at the moment, and Washington's kind of a feel-good story right now. So I think that's where America's rooting interest is outside of Michigan fans. Me, personally, I'm happy for both these schools. I think Michigan's getting a little bit too much hate. But what I'm interested in is Washington's offense versus Michigan's defense. Because to me, Washington is the best offense Michigan has faced all year. Michigan is definitely the best defense Washington has faced all year. So that matchup in particular, I would be watching. There's been a lot of things surrounding Jim Harbaugh, a lot of rumors about him going to the NFL after this. I could see it happening mainly because I don't think he likes the way the Big Ten treated him this year. But sticking with this game, I tend to believe this is Michigan's year and that Michigan's a team of destiny, and they've been able to overcome a lot of odds already, a lot of adversity, and I think they're almost immune from it. I think that game against Alabama really showed me a lot for what they're made of, facing a team outside the Big Ten to really test their skill level to an extent. I still don't think Washington has faced a defense quite like Michigan. I think it's going to be a little too much for them tonight. And I'm leaning Michigan, and I felt like Washington is the TCU of this year, which does not bode well for the championship. So give me Michigan. I don't think this is going to be a blowout for the record. I just think I see Washington as like a runner-up.
Would you take Michigan -5 then?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll write that down. Take that into consideration. Andre, what do you see in this game, bro?
I see a Washington team that's been doubted at several turns, especially against Oregon, especially against Texas. They were even underdogs against Oregon State when they went to Corvallis. And they just keep winning. Michigan, by pretty much every number except passing, is the better team. But something about the Huskies, they fight. They got that dog in them. And I really like that the way they compete. I understand that Michigan on paper should wax them. I understand the Michigan defense has been impenetrable pretty much all season. I think Washington penetrates them. I just really like this Washington team, what they do on the field, man. It's not really quantifiable. It's just they find ways to win. They've been doing it all season. And I think I'm just going to say this now. A number one is never being a number two in the college football playoff. So Washington's doing this matchup.
That's right. Because TCU was a 3 last year.
Yeah.
Right.
The number two is being the number one every single time they faced off in the playoffs.
That is what I wanted to hear. No disrespect. I know Dusty's over there talking about Michigan go blue. I get it. This is nothing against, I literally know nothing except for two things. Number one, actually, no, just one thing. And that one thing is I blindly bet Washington a few weeks ago against Texas, and it hit, and they made me money. So I'm just going to go with them again. That was already pre-decided. I just needed somebody to give me that boost of confidence I needed. As always, John pulls me down, and Andre just brings me right back up. And it's exactly what I needed. Thank you.
We adopt the other sports on the fly.
I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, Andre, we got that parlay for the NHL best bets tonight.
Yeah, this stinker of a parlay that I absolutely can't stand is plus 1164.
All right.
No, it's a good one. I wouldn't be mad if the Canucks beat the Rangers. I won't be mad. They're a good team. And what's the rule of this show? Bet the Canucks plus money.
That's right. Every time.
I take them because I have too much pride. But you two are wiser than me, so
it's your elite. Well, it's gonna be tough tomorrow night, and this isn't similar, but I'm just saying, like, tomorrow night the Sharks play the Leafs. And what did I tell you guys months ago?
Oh no. It's Tuesday curse.
Yes. But guess what? I told you guys it's going to be a Tuesday. The Sharks are at Toronto, and the Sharks will beat the Leafs. However, now the Leafs are playing the best hockey that they've played all year. And now my head is exploding. I'll have to think about it overnight and tomorrow, and we'll see how I feel about it. We'll see how I feel about it on tomorrow's show. You may have noticed that we changed our name. We were the NHL show, but two things. Number one, it was a bit generic. Number two, I don't really want to get sued by anybody. So we are now Pucks Across Borders. These two guys are in the United States of America, and I am across the border. So I'm just going to explain this once. If you can't figure it out after that, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but we are now Pucks Across Borders. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck with your bets out there. Total Apex, thanks for commenting and watching along. We will see you guys tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Go to firstdowncollectibles.com. Promo code SportsAddict for 10% off any sports card your heart desires. We will see you tomorrow at 3:30. Whoopsie. See you then.
Go